Hello, viewer, and welcome to Worldview, a program designed to bring you up to speed with trending developments the world over. My name is Xavier Robert, reaching you live from Uyo, the Akwa Ibom State capital. And on our top stories today, U.S. President Joe Biden hosts historic South Korean and Japan summit to counter China. A rapidly intensifying hurricane with 145 mph wind speed heads towards U.S. southwest. South African officials confirmed Chinese President Xi Jinping will pay a state visit next week and also attend the BRICS summit. Details of these stories and more in a moment. First on Worldview today, the United States and China have achieved what many deemed impossible, which is a historic meeting between U.S. President Joe Biden, Japan's Prime Minister Fumio Kishida, and South Korea's President Yoon Suk-yeol. Biden is hosting the first standalone meeting among the three countries at the Camp David presidential retreat in the U.S. It's diplomatic but still tenuous coup for the American leader. In recent months, Kishida and Yoon have taken tentative steps to resolve their hostilities and strengthen ties with Washington. This once inconceivable alliance is driven by shared concerns, the biggest of which is China. The reports say the meeting at Camp David is also the first time foreign leaders have visited the presidential retreat since 2015, and is an attempt to signify and to demonstrate how seriously Biden takes the relationship between Japan and South Korea. Away from that, now a rapidly intensifying hurricane with 145 mph wind speed is headed towards the U.S. southwest. The Category 4 hurricane, named Hurricane Hillary, is predicted to first make landfall in Baja California, a Mexican state, on Saturday morning. The forecasters say it will then lose wind speed and become a tropical storm, tracking northwest towards southern California, Nevada, Arizona, and Utah. It will be the first tropical storm to hit California in over 80 years. In San Diego, the NWS has issued a warning for the high potential of flash flooding. Nearly 26 million people in the U.S. Southwest are reportedly under flood watch. Away from that, the Foreign Affairs Ministry in Germany has thrown its weight behind the European Union sanctions against the meeting in Toledo, Spain on August 31. Recall that the EU, one of the biggest providers of aid to Niger, said last month it was suspending security cooperation and financial support that had been set at 503 million euros in 2021 through 2024 to help improve governance and education. In comments posted to X, the social media platform formerly known as Twitter, the Foreign Ministry said its Minister Annalena Baerbock has held talks with African Union Chair Musa Mohammed, U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken, and other stakeholders about the coup in Niger. In a separate development, now, troops of the Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS, have pledged readiness to participate in a standby force that could restore civil rule in Niger Republic should diplomatic efforts to reverse a coup there fails. All member states except those under military rule and Cape Verde pledged to also participate in the standby force at a meeting in Accra, Ghana capital. Addressing the assembled defense chiefs from ECOWAS member countries, the Commissioner for Political Affairs, Peace and Security, Abdel Fattah Musa, said ECOWAS would go to Niger with its resources, noting that any organization willing to help was welcome. The Commissioner added that the request for the United Nations chapter, which set out Security Council's powers to maintain peace, is often visited in order to secure resources and access contributions from the UN offer. In a separate development, the World Health Organization (WHO) has opened its first summit on traditional medicine, with the group saying it was seeking to collect evidence and data to allow for the safe use of such treatments. In his remark, the WHO chief Tedros Ghebreyesus said the agency is working to build the evidence and data to inform policies, standards, and regulations for the safe, cost-effective, and equitable use of traditional medicine. Tedros, while noting that traditional medicines are a first port of call for millions of people worldwide, said it could bridge healthcare access gaps, but was of value if used appropriately, effectively, and safely. On another matter, lawyers for Donald Trump have requested an April 2026 trial date for the federal charges that he conspired to overturn the 2020 election long after next year's presidential vote. The request comes as lead prosecutor Jack Smith is pushing for a January 2 start date in the case, one of 4 criminal prosecutions that Trump is facing in the middle of his White House re-election campaign. And they argued the number of documents in the case would require months to process. According to reports, the case is the most serious of 4 criminal probes that have yielded dozens of felony charges against Trump, including allegations that he covered up hush money payments to a porn star in a bid to cheat campaign finance rules ahead of the 2016 election. Elsewhere, property giant Evergrande has filed for bankruptcy protection in the U.S. as the real estate crisis in China deepens. It will allow the heavily indebted company to protect its assets in the U.S. as it works on a multi-billion-dollar deal with creditors. Now, reports say Evergrande defaulted on its huge debts in 2021, which sent shockwaves through global financial markets. The move comes as problems in China's property market add to concerns about the world's second-largest economy. The China Evergrande Group made the Chapter 15 bankruptcy protection filing in a New York court. The Chapter 15 protects the U.S. assets of a foreign company while it works on restructuring its debts. According to its website, the group's real estate unit has more than 1,300 projects in more than 280 Chinese cities. Elsewhere, South African officials have confirmed that Chinese President Xi Jinping will pay a state visit next week and will also attend the BRICS summit there. BRICS is an acronym for Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, and is seen by some as an alternative to the G7 group of developed nations. Xi's trip will be his second international one this year, after paying an official state visit to Russia in March. It comes as leaders of BRICS states are due to meet next week, with part of the agenda being the possible future expansion of the group's membership. A number of African countries, including Algeria, Egypt, and Ethiopia, have previously expressed a desire to join the bloc. The summit had earlier been clouded by questions on whether Russia's president would personally attend, but it was later confirmed by South Africa's presidency that in a bid to unseat the governing African National Congress (ANC) in the 2024 election. The multi-party charter for South Africa said if they come to power, they would work together and allocate ministerial positions and parliamentary seats. The parties are also seeking to keep Julius Malema's Economic Freedom Fighters (EFF) party from being voted into power. The agreement, initiated by the main opposition Democratic Alliance (DA) party, comes as the country battles an ailing economic corruption, unemployment, and an unprecedented energy crisis.
And start the work required to fix.
This is the first in the modern era of South Africa that a coalition is cobbled together before an election campaign.
Today, I believe we have started to build the platform that is going to free South Africans from the ANC and start the work required to fix our country.
The people of South Africa are not happy about how our country is governed. Almost everything is falling apart and going from bad to worse. This is...
In a separate development, the UN has said more than 2,400 people have been killed in Haiti since the start of 2023, amid rampant gang violence, including hundreds killed in lynchings by vigilante mobs. The toll comes as gang violence in Haiti's capital of Port-au-Prince this week left 30 residents dead and more than a dozen injured. UN Rights Office spokeswoman Ravina Shamdasani told newsmen that between January 1 and August 15 of this year, at least 2,439 people have been killed and a further 902 injured. In addition, she said 951 people have been kidnapped during the same period. A separate development has it that Russian officials have accused Ukraine of launching a drone attack on a building in Moscow, causing an explosion that was heard across the city's business district. Mayor Sergei Sobyanin said air defenses had shot down the drone, with its debris falling on the city's expo center. He added that the attack occurred at around 2 a.m. local time, and there were no initial reports of casualties. After the break, we have reported that Russian authorities have opened a criminal investigation into one of the leaders of a prominent independent election monitoring group. Stay with us for details on this and more right after the break.
Nigerian police, which is the only one allowed by grossly abused. Our governors have to share police which shall be administered, organized, and supervised by the Nigerian police.
No, my lord, I want to say something. I want to say something here. Perhaps it might also enlarge the scope of people who should be invited here for examination. My lord, if we cannot find those who literally murdered Abiola, who are those people who could be said to be the beneficiaries of the death of Abiola?
Rogers has linked you with some of the killings he did.
He never did.
He linked you with the attempted murder of Hebrew.
He did not.
My lord, the matters council is leading the evidence in. These cases are in court, my lord. I'm just reminding you, not shaking.
My lord, sorry, my lord, I think I'll be in cross-examination.
Legally Speaking, a program that deals with legal issues and questions we face as citizens of this amazing country, Nigeria. Legally Speaking. Join us every
Friday from 5 p.m. to 6 p.m.
for Legally Speaking.
Many thanks for staying tuned. Now, the United States has expressed concern over the threat of worsening violence in Mali, citing attacks on UN peacekeepers. State Department spokesman Matthew Miller said the attacks were unacceptable and condemned what he called such a violence and the larger threat posed by armed actors operating there. On Monday, the UN peacekeeping mission in Mali, MINUSMA, said it had been forced to withdraw earlier than usual from the northern town of Ber amid deteriorating security. The U.S. State Department says the attacks highlight the threat of worsening violence and the importance of all Malian parties settling their differences peacefully. In a separate development, more than 60 people reportedly feared dead after a boat carrying migrants from Senegal was found off Cape Verde in West Africa. Reports say 38 people, including children, were rescued on the island of Sal. Meanwhile, Cape Verde officials have called for global action on migration to help prevent further loss of life. A number of people are feared dead after a private jet crashed into a road while attempting to land in Malaysia. The police told newsmen that 2 motorists and 8 people on board were killed when it hit Guthrie Highway near Elmina. The aviation authority, however, did not confirm the toll. Reports say the plane, a Beechcraft model of 390, was traveling from Langkawi to Selangor and was attempting to land when it crashed. Away from that, France's former President Nicolas Sarkozy has stirred outrage in Kiev and Paris by suggesting Russia's invasion of Ukraine could be ended with new referendums in occupied territories. Speaking particularly about the Crimean Peninsula, which Russia claimed to have annexed in 2014, the former French leader said that any return to the way things were before is an illusion. The ex-president insisted that Russian leader Vladimir Putin was not irrational and could be reached with the right kind of diplomacy from Europe, harking back to Moscow's 2008 invasion of Georgia, when Sarkozy said he convinced Putin to withdraw his tanks. Reports say while in office, Sarkozy had deliberately participated in a criminal conspiracy for Russia's seizure of Ukrainian territories. The ex-president, who has spent much of his time since leaving office battling a slew of legal cases, was also attacked at home in France. Meanwhile, the Russian authorities have opened a criminal investigation into one of the leaders of a prominent independent election monitoring group. The case against Grigory Melkoniadze, co-chair of Russia's leading election watchdog Golos, is the latest step in the months-long crackdown on Kremlin critics and rights activists that the government ratcheted up after sending troops into Ukraine. Meanwhile, Melkoniadze's lawyer Mikhail Beryokov told the Associated Press that his client is facing charges of organizing activities of an undesirable group, a criminal offense punishable by up to 6 years involvement with such organizations, a criminal offense, that it was once a member of the European network of election monitoring organizations, a group that was declared undesirable in Russia in 2021. Gridia Simonite have released a joint statement confirming they are joining the G7 declaration of support for Ukraine. In the signed statement, they noted that only NATO membership will provide Ukraine with security guarantees. The prime ministers added that they will work with Ukraine within the multilateral framework to establish security commitments and arrangements that would help Ukraine win the war as soon as possible. Elsewhere, Israel said the United States yesterday approved the landmark sale of the Arrow 3 hypersonic missile defense system to Germany in the country's biggest military deal worth $3.5 billion. The Arrow 3 system, an interceptor designed to shoot down ballistic missiles above the Earth's atmosphere, is jointly developed and produced by Israel and the United States. Israel's defense ministry said in a statement the U.S. State Department had notified it of the U.S. government's approval for Germany to procure the Arrow 3 system. The ministry said senior officials from the Israeli and German defense ministries would sign a letter of commitment to the deal with a preliminary payment of $600 million. In a separate development, thousands ordered to flee wildfires advancing on one of the largest cities in Canada's far north crammed into a local airport yesterday to board emergency evacuation flights as Northwest Territories marked the latest chapter of a terrible summer for wildfires in Canada, with tens of thousands of people forced to leave their home burning, including about 230 in the Northwest Territories. Meanwhile, more than 20,000 residents of Yellowknife flights. And finally, on World View today, an Iranian filmmaker and his producer reportedly face prison time and being barred from filmmaking after they showcased a movie at the Cannes Film Festival without government approval, drawing immediate criticism internationally from leading American director Martin Scorsese and others. Director Saeed Rostai and producer Javed Nurojbegi traveled to Cannes last year to show Layla's Brothers, competing for the festival's Grand Palme d'Or prize. The film focuses on a family struggling to make ends meet as Iran faces international sanctions and includes sequences showing protests in the Islamic Republic as a series of nationwide demonstrations shook the nation. The film also depicts security forces beating demonstrators protesting Iran's ailing economy, which has already sparked mass protests and bloody security force crackdowns, killing hundreds. The family in it loses all its savings over the rapid depreciation of Iran. Additionally, the aging patriarch holding his family's wealth and forcing them into squalor for a chance at personal glory can be seen as an allegory to Iran's theocracy. And with that, we wrap up our package for you on Worldview today. Do ensure to follow us on social media and subscribe to our YouTube channel, all of which you can find on our website, SpectrumTv.ng. My name is Xavier Robert, reaching you live from Uyo, the capital city of Akwa Ibom, and you have been watching Worldview on Spectrum TV. Do enjoy the rest of our broadcast today. Bye-bye for now.